You know, it's been the tradition and the culture of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that when an introduction is done for them, and when they sit in front of people, to be able to make sure that the hearts of the people never, that the hearts of the people are always attached together. They always used to humble themselves and put themselves on the same level, if not lower, than the people sitting in front of them. And so there's a famous story of the companion Abu Bakr, radwanullahi alayhi, the first Khalif, after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who, after an introduction was made for him, he said, and listen to this, it's so beautiful, it humbles you. It teaches you to control your desires and this natural need that all human beings have to want to be recognized. He said, Allahumma anta a'lamu bi min nafsi. Oh Allah, you know of myself more than myself. Wa ana a'lamu bi nafsi minhum. And I know of myself more than them, these people who are saying all these beautiful and good things about me. Allahumma anta a'lamu bi min nafsi. Oh Allah, you know of myself more than myself. وَأَنَا أَعْلَمُ بِنَفْسِي مِنْهُمْ. And I know of myself more than these people who are speaking of me. اللهم اجعلني خيرا مما يحسبون. Oh Allah, whatever good it is that they had said about me, oh Allah, grant me much more than what they had said about me in reality. But then, because they don't know about my personal and private life, and they don't know about my shortcomings and downfalls, وَغْفِرْ لِي مَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And Allah, forgive me for all the good things that they had said about me that I may not really have and possess. Are you with me? And so, the poet said, إِن ذُنُوبِي عَظَمَتْ كَثِيرًا. If my sins and mistakes are so many to be counted, addressing Allah, إِن كَانَ لَا يَرْجُوكَ إِلَّا مُحْسِنٍ. And if you are a God that only the righteous and the pious and the God-fearing and those who are intact all the time and abiding by your laws, if you are a God who tends to the needs of those good people that look up to you and that care for you and that honor you and that hold you in high regard, فَمَن لِلْمُجْرِمِ. Oh Allah, who would be the God for people, sinners, and evildoers like myself? People who make mistakes day in and day out, who would be the Lord that they turn to? Moving on, unity, as the brother said, is a matter that has been eluding much of humanity for much of the time that we had existed in the world. At any given time in the history of humanity, there's been a conflict of one kind or another in one place or another. Unity in essence, Islamically, is an attribute of Allah. Al-Wahid, Al-Ahad, the one, the supreme one, the one who has no kids, who has no parents, who is alone, but whose power is far more than all of the billions of people combined and billions more, is Allah. So in essence, we derive our unity as Muslims, and to a larger extent as human beings, from the very attribute of God. The importance of this is defined by the mere fact that one of the most beautiful and most important attributes and names of the true Allah is Al-Wahid, Al-Ahad, the one. So then unity is the way Allah defines Himself, before we move on even to the people. Now, the pinnacle of happiness in life, not in life, generally, the ultimate place of bliss and comfort and beauty is paradise. People of all different faith groups will even tell you this. You ask anyone, where would you like to go after you die, or what would you like to happen to you after you die? Anyone will tell you, well, I would like to go to heaven. I've yet to see someone who said, I'd like to go to hellfire. So then the pinnacle of happiness, as we know both in the text and as we know in using our common sense, is Jannah. is paradise, heaven. Now, the interesting thing to this is Jannah, paradise, cannot be fully enjoyed by yourself. The pinnacle of bliss and happiness, limitless beauty and absolute delight, that which consoles and comforts the human heart and mind, body and soul, is paradise, heaven. And we are in Paris, even in heaven. So then, if that place which is the pinnacle of happiness cannot be enjoyed by yourself, it would also make sense that this world would almost be impossible to enjoy by yourself. Stay with me. It would also make no sense, it would make sense rather, that then in this world, which is a billion times, which has a billion times less possessions than heaven, if you can't enjoy it fully by yourself, being alone there, then the same path, the same process would apply to our lives here. The verses of the Quran, and much of it I'm going to be addressing from the Islamic perspective. The verses of the Quran that Dr. Ahmed here, my good friend, had recited from the chapter of the Quran known as Al-Imran, say a great deal about the concept and the importance of unity to the Muslim. In the verse, Allah says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. He says, and hang tight to the rope and the connection of Allah, جَمِيعًا, as a jama'ah, all together, not as individuals. Not as individuals. And I've said this last night at the University of Maine, that for any one person to come to this world, two other people have to get together. For any one person to come to this world, two other people have to get together. And for you to fully enjoy life here, you should spend your time with someone else. Whether when you're 7, that would be your father and mother. I suppose when you're 40, that would be your spouse, and so on and so forth. And the only time one is supposed to be alone, the only time when being alone is the natural process of being, is when you die, in death. Because no one has to die for me to die. But two people have to get together for me to be born. Right? No one has to perish for me to also perish. But two people, my mother and my father, had to for I to be here. So then, وَاعْتَصِمُوا, hang tight, بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, to the rope of Allah, جَمِيعًا, as a jama'ah, as a family altogether. And when we say a jama'ah, it denotes a lot of meanings. For instance, the jama'ah at the masjid means the congregation of the masjid. A jama'ah would just be an audience, just like the one here. Jami'ah would be the university. So knowledge and unity are so much related to each other. They're affiliated with each other. As a matter of fact, the oldest circles and the oldest recorded gatherings of people, to the best of my ability, to what I can remember, has been circles of knowledge. Even if it's teaching someone how to say hello, how to speak, God had always existed, is going to exists now. And so this old circle has always been something that God and Islam had especially honored. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And when we speak of that jama'ah, it not only applies to the Muslim, but it also applies to the individual and respective identities that you may possess. I sit in front of you as a Muslim, of course, far above and beyond every other identity that I have, far above every other identity. But I, for example, in this Jama'ah thing we're speaking of, I am from Somalia, therefore I care for the Somali people and the Somali Republic. It would be no shame for me to have that care. I am an African, I therefore care for the African continent and the African people. I'm an American citizen, therefore I care for America and the American people. I am a Muslim, I care for the state of Muslims and Islam in a given place on earth. I am a human being, therefore I care for the well-being and the welfare of every human being in the world. I am a creation of God, therefore I am specially related to and I care for every one of God's creation. So when you look at me, if you see just an African brother, a Somali brother, an American citizen, a Muslim guy, a guy with a weird hat on, whatever, you're only acknowledging just one small segment of who I really am. And it's your downfall, because I know who I am, I know what I can do, I know what I can't do. And life is beautiful when you recognize and realize your limits, what you can do, what you can't do, where you can go, where you can't go. So then, all these multiple identities that we have, Islam encourages us to honor them in their own unique ways. My being a good Somali does not in any way, shape, and or form conflict with my being a good American citizen. My being a good Muslim does not in any way, shape, and or form make me less of an African, less of an East African. If you want these lines to conflict, however, you can create drama out of nothing in this world. If you're a dramatic person, drama can be created, hostility can be created, animosity can be created from anything in this world. You know, they say the teeth and the tongue, as close as they are to each other, sometimes bite each other. Sometimes bite each other. Stay with me. So then I could continue biting myself. I could let my teeth bite my tongue all the time, but I choose not to because it hurts me. And I suspect the same applies to each and every one of you here. So then, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. This jama'ah that I speak of, it does not apply to one special group, one special color, one special class. We speak of peace and stability and progress in the world so very much. But I'll tell you this, if 1% of the world's people do not want peace to happen in the world, then we are not going to find peace. It's as simple as that. Let alone Muslims and Christians and Jews who are in the millions, sometimes in the billions. So then, it becomes a divine responsibility. Why divine? It's divine because everything that you possess and everything that you know and everything that you deal with in this world has been created for you without any sort of payment or compensation coming from you. You were made looking the way you look not because you had requested and you had sent your resume to God. The world and the trees and the mountains, the streams and the lakes, the rivers, all these beautiful things that you see, Allah tells us, as a matter of fact, in the Quran, that all these things have been created وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُمْ فِيهَا, because He wanted to beautify the earth and the world for us. So then, the divine responsibility is, because this wasn't yours to start with. You did not make the tree. You did not set up the mountains. You don't fill up the rivers when they empty up. You don't fill up the oceans when all is done with. You don't control the stars. You don't command the moon and the sun. All these things are given to you. You don't alternate between day and night, darkness and light. Because all these things are given to you, then the divine responsibility is that you leave this world looking more beautiful than it did when you came, or at the very bare minimum, leave it the way it looked when you came.